All right, so creating territories. You guys saw the list. So we want to talk about that now. How many in here have territories set up already? One, all right, yeah. Well, I know all you guys do. But we got one guy, right? So literally, use searches for home sale prices to find clusters of target homes. You want, in each territory, about 4,000 to 5,000 homes that are, average income over $80,000 and their home value around $450,000 to $500,000 or more. And some of you guys are in some crazy, awesome territories. I don't quite have that here in Greenville, but we're right about there. So get a wall map and start placing pins where the homes exist. This is what my first initial thing was. We started getting some things. I started putting pins in where we were getting all the juicy homes. Then I was like, here's a cluster here. Here's a cluster here. You know what I mean? Then I really started getting hyper-focused. I was like, okay, how do we get more, right? And then this is how we did it. We got the territories. Then we get a large wall zip code map, which is dry erase, and start marking off your territories for assigning sales reps. Also use USPS.com. If you go to USPS.com, you go to the EDDM part, and you literally can go in there and type your zip code, and it'll show you the map, their mail route, but you hover over it, and it'll tell you what their average income is on that mail route. It'll tell you if it's $80,000 average income, and it'll tell you if it's $30,000. You're like, if it's 30, don't even go over there, you know what I mean? But you want to find those $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 median income on the USPS.com in the EDDM tab. Pretty cool stuff? Good. So this is what it's going to start looking like. You're going to start breaking them down, and then you might have 4 or 5 zip codes. Now, guess what? When that territory manager is going out there, hey, you're getting a protected territory. We're not going to put any other territory managers in there. You're going to reap what you sow. So when you're out there flyering, because they want to know, I don't want to flyer somebody else's territory and give them money. We're a team player. Yeah, if I do by accident, that's great, love you, but I need money too, right? This is your income, this is your livelihood. So you want to make sure that your territory is getting taken care of and you're getting what's coming out of it.
So that's average income right there?
This is not. This is just color code for zip codes right here. But if you go to the USPS.com, you literally can do that. And we can show, if you want to do a little bit of that tomorrow, I'll have my laptop up. We're going to be quoting some properties. Yeah?
Yeah, and I use richblocks4blocks.com. So you could literally go income, property income, real estate, rent, everything. And it's different color coordinated.
Awesome. It's called richblocks.
Richblocks4blocks.com.
Richblocks,
literally like
4 blocks.
One is every color, any area in the United States.
Good, awesome.
Yeah, it's free.
Sweet, awesome. Thank you.
Richblocks4blocks.
All right, so creating territory. So see how we did this? So this is Chattanooga, and we got our little radius here of where our territory was, right? We want to do a 1-hour bubble around your shop. So we kind of lay this out. So get 3 to 4 hot spots. That's all you need, 3 or 4 hot spots. You put 4 territory managers out, flyering every day in your sales vehicle. What do you think is going to happen? Leads.
So I got a question. So I'm kind of in that situation as a business owner where I'm doing primary sales, which but to explain the situation. So I have 3 guys out in the field. I'm the territory manager right now.
Yep.
What is it? Because I have reservations, although I'm seeing the system and putting it together, and that's why I'm here today. What is it that's maybe prohibiting? Is it fear? Because I know, hey, well, if I take on a territory manager, put him in a vehicle, send him to these locations to do these flyering, we already have a proven system. 100 flyers gets a call. Even if you have a poor booking rating, which I feel like I do, it's 3 out of 10 or less. So we have a proven system. What is it that's blocking someone like me, or maybe I'm asking for myself, from putting that person on if we know that it'll help grow?
So it is self-limiting beliefs sometimes, right? We think that we're not ready to employ that person, or you might even think that we won't be able to afford that person, right? Or you don't have the systems in place that he'll just come and then it's going to be a waste of time, waste of money, and it's not going to work out anyway. Or you put somebody in place and then you're like, it's going to take over everything, but guess what? You just took on another responsibility too now. So sometimes we as business owners are like, I feel like I would do it better, or I feel like I don't want to take on another responsibility. I really got my 3 guys. I need to do the sales. But you know it's going to grow. But do you really know? There's going to be some doubt still, right? Yeah. Until you do it. Seeing is believing. So like we see all this stuff, and now hopefully coming here and seeing this, you'll have the confidence, because it's all confidence, right? And then training that person. But once you do that, it's a weight lifted off your shoulder. You know what I mean? And you don't know what you don't know until you do it. So sometimes we just, are scared, to do it. Yeah.
So my situation, I always did my own sales for 9 years, but then I ran into a situation where my health wouldn't allow me to drive anymore. So I was forced into a situation where I couldn't do sales. So I hired somebody, one of my techs, crew leaders stepped up and said, I'll do sales for you. So he came in, and now I got my first sales guy, right? Yep. I didn't realize how good that was, but I was forced into it, Yep. So I couldn't have those self-limiting beliefs, Yep. It was just like
you had to do what you had to do. But what did that look like, right? It was like awesome. All of a sudden it's like, wow, this is working, right? And then you started seeing the things coming in.
Now I can focus on office stuff. He was out there part-time, but now I got David, he's full-time territory manager, and it's just super nice.
Yeah.
But I was forced into it, and it was, I might not have made that jump.
Exactly.
But you just got to do it.
Yeah, you just got to do it. It's kind of like I read an article. I was really scared for hiring my first office manager. It was like really scary because I was like, how are we going to pay for it? And I read an article, and it was like, when you put the people in place, the money will come. Because they're working. They're generating their leads. They're commission-based, so it doesn't cost you any money. Training and stuff like that, it does cost you money and gas. But they don't make money unless they make the sale. So that's a little bit less of a burden, right, for you. But you have to have the systems in place so they can execute, right? And you said like your closing ratio, right, or your conversion isn't very high. That just means you need to get way more leads, right? Because you are the top guy, right? So now it's good because you're working smarter, not harder, right? It's just you got to get more leads. So how do you do that? Now we got to reverse engineer that and say, I need more people out, more flyers going out, more EDDM, right, to get those clients that do see the value in an arborist, right? And they want somebody that's professional, not chucking a truck coming out with his chainsaw and that was a, you know what I mean? Oh my goodness, broke my window or whatever it is, right? So what?
Yeah, sorry about your house. I didn't mean to drop that tree right there.
Yep, exactly. So I hope that helped. I hope that helped. Cool. All right, so find those 4 hot spots. These are high income areas. So those 4 spots are going to be high income areas. Look at population in those territories. You want, like I said, 250,000 in a population in that territory. Yeah.
One thing I was thinking on what you said is I put myself in uncomfortable situations because I'm a worker. So if it's work to do, I'm out there. But if I'm working, nobody's selling, nobody's answering phone calls. So we're in 2 cities. This season I expanded to 4 cities. There's no way I can work. So I have to hire and train people and train them the right way to do the work. You the owner, you're gonna make sure it's get done right. So put yourself in uncomfortable situations where you can't do what needs to be done. And you're gonna do everything you can to train somebody to do it the way you would do it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I tell you what, hiring Haley has been a huge weight off of my shoulders. Just having someone to answer the phone, it's huge.
Yeah.
Answer the phone, book appointments. I was scared to death because you gotta pay somebody, right? She's earning her money.
Look, you gotta act and think like a CEO. Do you see a CEO working on a truck? No. They're putting people in place, they're delegating tasks, they know the system, right? Then they just put the people in place. That's what you gotta do. And it's very hard, don't get me wrong. It's like, how do I do this, right? But once you do it, and like, looking back 10 years, I was like, no way I would thought I'd be here, right? So putting the people in place, it will grow. So just keep moving forward.
Hey Pat, so you got numbers up there for 250,000. Our main city is 210,000.
So you'll break it down then a little bit further, and you're going to say, all right, what are my really, really juicy spots? And see what you have in that area. Every area is different, right? So if you have 200,000 in there, you might want to split that up and say 50,000 in each territory, but pick out and see what juicy neighborhoods are in there and see what the demographic is. Like if there's 400 really good homes or 4,000 really good homes, you're just going to have to pinpoint that out. You might only have 2 territories in there. I'm not sure. You just got to look at those demographics, if that makes sense.
More on small commercial as well than just the residential.
Yeah, and then and you might be splitting that up with residential commercial too, and then seeing what you're doing.
What's the size of your flyers, Pat?
The size of my flyers, they are what 3 by 9, I believe, 3 by 9. So yes, sir.
So, just on what you got up there, you got a 1 hour bubble for your territory manager to cover. So for us, that's kind of interesting because an hour from where I'm located puts me into a major in Orlando. So, which is a super saturated market at this point.
Yeah.
Is that something where you would recommend going ahead and dipping your toes into the water in the Orlando market, even though you got an hour travel time?
So you have to get that first branch really before you go into another market like that. You might do a satellite branch there because once you get in Orlando, you're like, I can put a satellite branch there. So right now, let's get your one location systemized and running really good where you're booking up 2 to 3 trucks. Then you're like, all right, let's do a satellite branch and run 2 trucks out of that new facility.
So shrink that down a little bit.
Shrink it down a little bit, yeah. Not quite, because you got to, shrink it down just a hair. You might move up a little bit this way or that way, yeah, before you step into a really big market, yeah. But eventually you can start flyering that, start generating, and doing a little bit from your one branch to get that satellite branch up and running later on, right? But it's a good goal to have. Yes, sir?
Do you have separate commercial territory managers, or do your
don't.
guys run commercial and residential?
So right now, I do all the commercial, really. Now, Greg and Sam are doing commercial because they've been with me the longest, so they've kind of come with me and shadowed me. So commercial is really tricky because you can lose a lot of money on commercial. You can say the wrong buzzwords. These are pro buyers. So like you got to know what you're talking about when you're quoting these things, know what to say, all that stuff. So they have followed with me right now. So they do the small commercial stuff, like the hotels and maybe small apartment complexes and stuff like that where they bring the numbers back and we'll even split it. So it's 10% commission on commercial. I'll take 5, he takes 5. I write it all up. He just gets me the measurements and he's shadowing me until I feel like he's confident enough to run the whole thing by himself. Yes, sir.
When you say wrong buzzwords, what are some wrong buzzwords in the market?
So wrong buzzwords are things like, you have your parapet wall, you got these different things. If you're saying the wrong things and you're like turning them off, if you will, right? Because you're kind of going to be dating, right? So you got to make sure that you're dotting your I's, crossing your T's. But if you're saying like, I'm trying to think of an instance where
the word ephes, if you're using
ephes, yeah, you're not. It's the wrong surface maybe, or you're going to a property manager and you're like, I'll say, what's the occupancy? So like if you're not asking the right questions too. You're not flowing right? And then you're saying, well, what's the budget, or what did you get it done for last time? You're asking questions that are like you shouldn't even be asking, right? And then they're like, this guy's just rubbing the wrong, you know what I mean? There's things you don't ask property managers and stuff like that. So, when you go out there, you're like not forceful, but sometimes people are like, hey, I just want to do a proposal. You got to build the relationship, you know what I mean? Throughout it. So some people just go all gung-ho and go right in there and plan on closing the deal the first shot. Not going to happen, right? So you got to make sure that you're layering it so you're building that reputation and building that confidence in that person to say, okay, I'm going to give you one property right now. Let's see how you do, and then I'll give you my whole portfolio. But you can go in there and you're not saying the right things. They're like, I obviously see that this guy's never done an apartment complex before, right? So you just got to make sure that you're dotting your I's, crossing your C's, and you're saying the right things. Yeah.
How did you get your first big apartment complex?
Well, I'll talk about, instead of apartment complex, I'll tell you how I got the Marriott. So we got our first commercial Marriott. I'm still in an Astro van, right? It's a 98 Astro van, 2 seats in it. I have 2 kids. Their car seats are literally ratchet strapped to the front seats because I couldn't afford a van. Right? So we get a call from the Marriott, and I'm like, the Marriott's 12 stories, So I go out there and I meet with the maintenance engineer. So if you're getting these bigger hotels, you're going to look at the maintenance engineer, right? So I'm talking to the maintenance engineer, and he's like, I'm loving the soft washing, I like what you're saying. And so I was telling him about the different surfaces because there's sandstone, there's stucco. I'm telling him how we're going to handle these different things. He has a bullnose that protrudes from the side all the way around. It's white and it's black, and I'm like, gutter butter is going to make that look amazing. So what did I do? I set up a demo. Did the demo. Love the demo, right? Because demos sell. So then did the demo. Ended up getting another meeting with him. Then we sent over the proposal on it. They liked it. Then they set up another meeting, and I didn't know, but I took pictures off of Google and I highlighted, the different areas and what we were going to do each day. It was a month-long project, and I highlighted what, my one truck was going to do each day on the whole project, and I had 200 and something pictures of all the different surfaces, how we were going to handle it. So I go into the meeting, I walk into the room, and sure enough, guess who's there? 12 of them. Yeah, owners, investors, like regional managers from Ohio flew in and everything, and I'm there, you know what I mean? Like 24 years old, 25 years old, I sit at this table and I'm scared to death.
Baby face fat.
Yeah, didn't have the beard at the time, right? So I'm like scared to death, and so I'm like, holy moly, you know what I mean? So I play it cool, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, so here are the pictures, like this is how we're gonna handle it, and they were asking me all kinds of questions. What are you going to do for the lift? How are you going to get up here? All this stuff. And I said, well, I'm calling out a crane, and we're going to get the largest crane out of Columbia. It's $1 million crane to come in, and we're going to get over the building to get this one section that we couldn't get because the crane could only park in 3 spots. So I had a bunch of the lift people come out, and there was 3 crane companies that turned us down. They said, no, that's too high risk of a project and all this stuff. So I presented all this stuff. I blew their socks off. Thank God. All right, God was on my side on that one. And it worked out really well, so they signed the proposal, and then AC Lockyer told me, because I called him on this, and I'm like, dude, this is the biggest project. He's like, no, you can't do that one. Let's call one of my window cleaners. We'll rappel, but you couldn't rappel off this building because they have the metal roof off the top. And so I'm like, I'm doing this, AC. I'm getting it done. It was like $48,000 or something, and I thought I bid it really high. When you get those jobs, you're like, I'm going to bid it right, like crazy through the roof, and if I get it, we'll figure out how to do it. If we don't, no big deal, right? So I thought I bid it really, really high. And anyway, we ended up doing it. It was awesome. Like, we blew their socks off. It was really great. I was able to buy my wife the Honda Odyssey that's wrapped out there. Cash money, $7,500, from the profit from the job, and we were moving up in the world. And we were able, with that cash, we were able to buy some more systems, buy some more sales cars, and really get the ball rolling. But it was very, very difficult with that. And that was my first commercial. Now I use that to start going after the apartment complexes. I went to a trade show is how I got my first apartment complex. Went to a trade show, met with a property manager, showed him what we had going on, showed him the Marriott. Like, hey, we can handle big stuff. I even got the web address, wewashthebigstuff.com. Oh, right? I was like, yeah, that's my website, wewashthebigstuff.com, But that was it. That's all the big stuff I did at the time. But you got to kind of fake it till you make it, right? So then I got my apartment complex. Then I was like, man, we just did $20,000 in a week. I'm like, how in the world? Now let's replicate that, right? So that's what we did. And now we do a lot of them. So that's the end of that, guys. So hopefully you guys are loving it.